Is it true that God cannot look upon sin? The answer to that is yes. In Habakkuk 1:13, it says that God is of purer eyes than to behold evil and to look upon the wickedness that is done. And so God is unable to see evil and sin. Now, this does not negate the reality that he does not know it is occurring. It's possible for us to know something without seeing it. We can know, let's just say we have an infallible barometer that can always tell what the weather's going to be. We can pick the location. Maybe we're in the United States, then we can look at what the weather is going to be like in France. And we can say, oh, it's going to be rainy tomorrow for France. And we can know that it will be rainy. It will actually be raining during that time of the next day when we're also existing, but we're in the United States of America. We can know that's happening without actually seeing it. And likewise is it with God and sin. God knows it is happening, but he is of purer eyes to look upon than to look upon it. And God has sort of a holy screen, so to speak. He can see from the standpoint of knowing that the act is being done without actually seeing the promiscuity or the violence or whatever it might be that is occurring from it. And so this is very important because to understand because God knows all things. He knows what's going to happen even before it happens, and yet he is so pure, his eyes are so holy, he himself cannot even look upon evil and wickedness. Now, just because he can't, that doesn't mean that he can't. There's something God can't do, because it's logically impossible for him to be in the state of holiness that he is and to look upon that and to see it, because that would be in some sense to taint his vision. Not that he could ever do evil. He can't do evil. He's never tempted by evil, as scriptures tell us. But God only looks upon what is pure and holy, and when something acts out of accord with that, God sets up sort of a holy screen, so to speak, and he still knows what's happening, because we know there is a book of remembrance. We know that everything, whether good or evil, will be brought into account before him who is able to judge the living and the dead. Whatever is done in darkness will be brought into the light. Jesus declares that. We know that God, it knows everything that's happening, but just because he knows everything doesn't mean he's actually seeing everything. And likewise is it when we are speaking on God's ability to, so again, he can know all things without having to see it. And likewise, God, he sustains all things, but because he sustains all things, does that mean he causes all things? Well, no. We know that when we are tempted by evil, do not say we are tempted by evil, because God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt. He doesn't tempt us by way of evil. He doesn't make us sin. He doesn't make us do that which is contrary to him. So God sustains everything in being, but he isn't the cause of everything that he sustains. He sustains us in being, but we have freedom of the will to obviously go and do wrong and evil and sin, but God's not making us do that. He's merely sustaining us, allowing us to live and make those decisions. So there is a difference between God's knowledge and God's sight. And God, it is true that God cannot even look upon sin, but just because he can't look upon it doesn't mean that he doesn't know that it's happening.